The film begins with Annie, who is reading special tarot cards for one of her clients who comes to her for fortune-telling, as Annie has the ability to see visions of events that have happened in the past or will occur in the future. After finishing, she asks her 3 children to go to bed. That same night, she looks at a picture of her late husband, who died a year earlier in an explosion at the factory where he worked, and she appears deeply saddened. The next morning, Annie reads the cards for Valerie and notices bruises on her face. She asks, "Did your husband hit you again?" Valerie replies, "Yes, my body is covered with bruises, but I can't leave him. He threatened to kill me if I did." Annie tells her, "You have to leave him. If you want, I can report him to the police because I know he's abusing you." But Valerie answers, "No, I can't. You don't know my husband, Donnie Park. He's very violent, and if he finds out I told anyone, he'll kill me." When Annie reads her cards, she tells her that Donnie is violent, but he doesn't have the courage to kill. Valerie then says she suspects he's seeing another woman. At that moment, Annie receives a call from the school telling her they need her there because her eldest son, Mike, got into a fight with his classmates. When she arrives, she meets Wayne, the new school principal, who tells her that her son is currently with the doctor after the fight and has some bruises on his face. He adds that her son often gets into fights. Annie explains that he wasn't violent before, but since his father's death, he's become short-tempered and aggressive. Meanwhile, Jessica, Wayne's fiancée, shows up and asks him to go out with her, but he tells her he's busy and will meet her later. He then introduces her to Annie, saying she's one of the students' mothers. Annie says she must leave because her clients are waiting at home. Jessica asks, "Are you the fortune teller?" Annie replies, "No, I just have a gift that I use to help people." At that moment, Annie suddenly sees a vision of Jessica's leg disfigured and is visibly shocked. Jessica asks, "Did you see something?" Annie answers, "No." She quickly leaves, gets into her old car with a broken door, and drives to a mechanic's workshop, where she meets Buddy and tells him that the car door won't close, asking him to fix it. He tells her he'll have it ready by 6 in the evening and offers to drive her home, which she accepts. On the way, he says, "You're my only friend. I don't have anyone else." Then he suddenly stops the car and asks, "Am I going to die?" She replies, "No," and asks if he's taking his medication regularly. He says, "Yes, I have to, but I keep having dark thoughts whenever I see the blue diamond. I think about ending my life." She tells him, "Don't do that. I'm here for you. If you ever need to talk, call me." She then gives him her son Ben's handkerchief to wipe his tears and tells him to keep it. He thanks her, clearly emotionally disturbed, and often visits Annie to have his cards read. That night, Annie is startled by Donnie, Valerie's husband, banging violently on her door. She speaks to him through the door, asking what he wants. He says he needs to talk, and when she opens, he threatens her, "If you ever turn my wife against me again, I'll kill you." Her children wake up from the noise, and he adds, "If you want to keep them safe, stay away from my wife." Annie throws him out. The next morning, we see Annie's kids painting the house while their mother is in a session with a client. Suddenly, Valerie shows up, apologizing for what her husband did and asking Annie to read her cards somewhere else where Donnie can't find her. At that moment, Valerie spots her husband's car outside and panics. Donnie storms in, furious, beats her, and drags her by the hair toward the car. When Annie tries to stop him, she slips on the wet paint and falls, while Donnie drives away with Valerie. Days later, Annie sees a vision of her deceased grandmother approaching her with a bowl of fruit, saying, "You must trust yourself and the gift you inherited from me and your mother. A storm is near, and you must face it with strength." Then she adds, "I must go now," and disappears. In that moment, Annie sees a vision of a murder, but the victim's face is unclear. A few days later, Annie attends a party with a friend and runs into Wayne, Jessica, and her father Kenneth, who seems very fond of his daughter. When Annie goes to the bathroom, she finds Jessica in an intimate situation with another man. Shocked, Annie quickly leaves before anyone notices. She then sees Wayne standing alone, approaches him, and when he asks if she's seen Jessica, she lies and says, no. He tells her he loves Jessica deeply and that their wedding is in 2 months. Then he asks Annie about her husband. She says she loved him very much, and he asks, "How did you not foresee the accident that killed him?" She explains that the night before, she had a terrible dream and told him not to go to work, but he insisted on going anyway. During their conversation, Jessica returns and tells Wayne that her father wants to see him. Wayne excuses himself and leaves with her. Later that evening, Annie goes to pick up her kids from her neighbor's house. When they get home, she notices the lights are on and tells her children, "Stay here." She cautiously enters, frightened. She searches the rooms and finds her bedroom window open, with her tarot cards laid out to form the word demon. When her kids come in, she quickly scrambles the cards, tells them there's nothing wrong, and asks them to go to bed. The next morning, she reports the incident to the police. An officer visits her house and tells her that whoever broke in wasn't Donnie, as he's known him for years and knows he wouldn't do something like that. To protect herself, Annie keeps a baseball bat beside her bed. That night, she dreams that someone is strangling her. She tries to reach for the bat but can't, and at that very moment, she wakes up terrified. The next day, Annie leaves the church, and at that moment, her friend catches up with her and tells her that Jessica has been missing for 2 days. She then jokingly says that Annie now has a chance to get close to Wayne, since she noticed how well they got along at the party. Annie replies that she's not thinking about a relationship right now. A few days later, Annie's son Miller goes to the neighbor's house to fetch something, and while he's there, Donnie follows him by car, stops beside him, and tries to get him to ride with him, but the boy refuses. Donnie tells him, "Tell your mother to stop her witchcraft, or she'll burn like all witches." At that moment, Buddy drives up and calls out to Miller. When he learns what Donnie said about Annie, he grabs a sharp tool from his car and smashes Donnie's windshield. Donnie pulls out his gun and threatens him, but Buddy steps closer and shouts, "Go on. Kill me." Terrified, Donnie freezes, and his friend, who's driving, speeds away from the scene. That evening, Kenneth, Jessica's father, arrives at Annie's house with Wayne and the chief inspector. Kenneth tells her that they've been searching for Jessica for a long time with no results, and says, "I've heard you can see things that no one else can. I want to know where my daughter is." Wayne pleads with her to help them. Annie opens her cards and tells them she sees a fence and a garden of white roses. The officer mocks her, saying, "Do you know how many people in this area have fences and gardens? Try to be more specific." Annie says she's too nervous to see clearly right now. They thank her and leave. The next day, Annie has a vision in which she sees herself walking down a street until she reaches a place full of white flowers. She picks one, and it turns black. Then she sees a large wooden gate, passes through it, and finds a wide lake on the other side, where a man sits on the shore playing a violin. When she wakes from the vision, she goes out to feed the dog, and suddenly has another one. Jessica is chained to a tree in Annie's garden. Though she looks lifeless, she opens one eye and stares directly at Annie. The following morning, Annie goes to the police chief and tells him what she saw in both visions. From her descriptions of the lake and the violinist, he recalls that Donnie's neighbor used to be a violin player and concludes that the lake must be the one across from Donnie's house. He takes Annie, Jessica's father, Wayne, and a team of officers there. After getting permission from Valerie, Donnie's wife, they begin searching the lake. Donnie soon shows up, furious, and protests the search. The officer tells him his wife consented, and Donnie snaps, "She has no say in this." When the officer notices scratch marks on Donnie's arm and asks about them, Donnie replies, "A cat scratched me when I killed it last night." Seeing Annie, Donnie charges at her and hits her violently. Wayne intervenes, punching Donnie, and the officer separates them. At that moment, the police discover Jessica's body in the lake, chained, with her right eye wide open exactly as Annie had seen in her vision, while the other eye had been eaten by fish. When Jessica's father sees her corpse, he has a heart attack, and Wayne collapses in tears. The police chief orders Donnie's arrest as Donnie screams that he didn't kill her. Days later, Annie visits Jessica's lawyer's office and realizes he's the same man she saw with Jessica in the bathroom at the party. The lawyer tells her he doesn't want any surprises in court and asks, "Did you have any personal grudge against Donnie?" She replies, "Yes, because I encouraged his wife to leave him. He used to beat her." He then asks, "And did you have any kind of relationship with him?" Shocked, she answers, "Of course not." The next day in court, Donnie's lawyer calls Annie to the stand and asks, "How did you know where the body was?" She answers, "I saw it in a vision." He asks, "What do you mean by that?" She explains, "I have a gift, inherited from my mother, who inherited it from her mother. We see visions of the past and the future." He then asks, "Do you take money from people for your card readings?" She answers, "No. They just give me donations or small gifts." When he continues pressing her, she breaks down and shouts, "I'm raising 3 kids alone, and my husband's pension is barely enough. Why are you attacking me?" Then she storms off the witness stand. Outside the courthouse, Buddy asks to talk to her, but she says she's busy and leaves. That evening, Buddy's mother comes to Annie's house in tears, telling her that Buddy has tied up his father and plans to kill him. Annie rushes with her to the house and finds Buddy holding his father captive. She tries to calm him down and says, "I'm your friend. We can talk about whatever's bothering you." But Buddy replies, "It's too late to talk. You gave up on me." At that moment, Annie notices a blue diamond tattoo on the father's body and realizes he had sexually abused Buddy as a child, which caused Buddy's disturbed mental state. Tragically, Buddy sets his father on fire right in front of her. Moments later, the police and ambulance arrive. Buddy is arrested, and his father is taken to the hospital in critical condition. The next day in court, Jessica's lawyer calls Donnie to testify and asks, "Did you meet Jessica the night she disappeared?" Donnie replies, "Yes. We were seeing each other. That night we argued, and she scratched my arm. I hit her back, and her head struck the car, and she passed out. I took her toward the hospital, but she woke up on the way and said she didn't want to go. So I took her back to her car. I didn't kill her." He then screams angrily at Annie, "It's your fault, witch. I'll never forgive you," and tries to attack her. The police restrain him and remove him from the courtroom. After deliberation, the jury finds Donnie guilty, and the judge sentences him to life in prison. That night, Annie has another vision, this time clearer and more real. She sees Jessica's sad face before her and realizes that Donnie isn't the real killer. She goes to Wayne's house and finds him devastated with grief. She tries to comfort him and says she's certain Donnie is innocent. Wayne asks, "Do you think if we go back to the lake, you could find out the truth?" She replies, "Yes." The next morning, while Annie is in her kitchen, she suddenly has a quick vision of someone trying to kill her, but the face is unclear. That evening, Wayne comes to her house and says, "We have to go to the lake so you can find out who the real killer is." She agrees and goes with him. When they arrive, she takes a flashlight from the car and walks by the lakeside. When she trips and falls, Wayne helps her up, and in that moment, she sees a vision of him hitting her on the head with the flashlight. Terrified, she begins to see flashes of what really happened. Wayne was the one who killed Jessica after discovering she was having an affair with Donnie. He had confronted her, asking, "Why did you do this to me when you know I love you?" Jessica had humiliated him, saying, "Because you're weak, and he's strong. I don't love you. My father forced me to get engaged to you because he likes you." Then she threw her ring at him, saying, "I'm leaving you." Enraged, Wayne killed her and dumped her body in the lake. When Wayne realizes Annie knows the truth, he says he didn't mean to do it, that he acted out of pain and humiliation. Annie, terrified, tells him she won't tell anyone, but when she tries to run, he hits her on the head with the flashlight, knocking her down. As he raises it again to finish her off, Buddy appears, grabs his hand, and beats him unconscious. They then load Wayne's body into the car trunk, and Annie drives toward the police station. On the way, she asks Buddy, "How did you get out of the hospital?" He answers, "I escaped," and hands her the handkerchief she'd once given him. When they arrive at the station, she tells him, "Wait here. I'll come back to take you to the hospital." He says softly, "I'll wait." She goes inside and tells the officer everything that happened. The officer replies, "That's impossible. Buddy hanged himself and died in the hospital 6 hours ago." Shocked, Annie exclaims, "That's impossible," and runs outside to find that Buddy has vanished. It becomes clear that his spirit was the one who had helped her. At that same moment, the police open the car trunk and find Wayne unconscious inside. They arrest him, and the story comes to an end. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video.